Both Pastor Roger and I really got right with God in the summer of 1972. Now, when you know something about that era, that's been 50 plus years ago, and you may not know anything about that era, but there was, in the culture, it was the pinnacle of the muscle car. And I don't even know if you know what a muscle car is, but all of the famous car brands, Chevrolet, Ford, Pontiac, Dodge, on down the lines, Plymouth, all of them built up these powerful engines in these little cars. And it's called the era of the muscle car. And these things were something else. We had friends that had GTOs. Pastor Roger had a Plymouth Satellite. And it was considered to be one of the best of the all-time muscle cars. And this car could really, really go. And I learned right then and quick that Pastor Roger had a need for speed. And he would drive that car by my house on the way to school on school day mornings, and I could hear him coming. I was waiting for the school bus. He was already driving his car to school, and he would fly by my house 80, 90, maybe even 100 miles an hour. He liked to go fast. And so all of our buddies had muscle cars except me. I drove an old beat up pickup. Later I got a nice car, but in those early days, it's a wonder we survived riding in those muscle cars. There was too much power and too many young men behind the wheel. So we had these cars that would go fast. And Pastor Roger had an idea one day. We were so on fire for the Lord. Have you ever heard of that line that some people say that you can have zeal without knowledge? Actually, I think that's in the scripture, that you can have zeal without knowledge. Well, we had zeal, lots of zeal, but we didn't really have a lot of knowledge yet. We'd been believers, really. We had been really trying to follow Jesus for maybe 2 or 3 months. So we didn't know much, but we had this zeal to want to lead someone to Christ. And so we were just trying to think of every way we could to share our faith with anybody that we ran across. One day, Pastor Roger and I were on the east side of the lake where there's a long straightaway highway. And he goes, I've got an idea. He said, the Highway Patrol really works this section of highway because it's so easy to speed on, because it's just flat and it goes for about 10 or 15 miles. And he said, what if we just drive up and down this highway at a high rate of speed, and the Highway Patrol will pull us over, and then we'll share our faith with him. And I said, yeah, that's a great idea. Now, at this time, I'm probably 18, Roger's maybe 17. So that's what you call zeal without knowledge. Sure enough, he hit the pedal to the metal, and we took off down that road going probably close to 100 miles an hour. And sure enough, the Highway Patrol was waiting in one of his spots, turned on his lights, pulled us over, and the Highway Patrolman walked to the car, and Pastor Roger rolled down his window, and the man said, do you guys have any idea how fast you were going? And Pastor Roger says, no. And then he says, but my friend wants to tell you something. And so I looked at the Highway Patrolman, then I looked at Roger, and I said, we were just hoping you'd pull us over so that we could tell you about Jesus and what Jesus has done for us. And I'll never forget that patrolman. He just shook his head, put his hand in his head for a moment, and shook his head, and he said, boys, listen, I know you boys, I know your families. And he says, I'm a Baptist deacon at another church, and it was a different county. And he said, now look, I'm going to let you guys go, but I don't want you to ever pull this stunt again. He said, you're going to get yourself killed, or you're going to kill somebody else, and I'm already saved. So go on down the road, leave us alone, stop doing this. Well, we went on down the road just a little bit, and we were a bit frustrated about what had happened in that Highway Patrol incident. We thought we were going to be able to, have some big tale to tell, which in fact we did. And as we went down the road, we drove past, out in the country now, way out in the country, but it's close to a lake. There was an old, nasty, beat-up beer joint in there. And there was about 3 or 4 cars parked around it. And Roger had the bright idea. He said, why don't we do this? Let's go inside the beer joint. Number one, that would be illegal. And we were underage. And let's go in there and witness to those people about the Lord. And so we walked into the beer joint. And there were 2 ladies sitting at a table and chair. They were drinking a beer. And there was another guy that was drinking a beer, but he was playing pool by himself because only 3 people in the bar. So we just naturally divided. I went towards that guy, and Roger went toward those 2 ladies. And I don't really remember what happened to Roger's encounter. I just remember what happened to me in that encounter. And I'll never forget the guy saying, he said, "My goodness, man," he said, "I work hard every day. I come in here to drink a beer in the afternoon. Can't you just give me a break and leave me alone for 1 minute?" And I just tried to tell him Jesus loved him and we loved him. By the time I turned over to Pastor Roger, and I could see that he was getting nowhere too. So we just kind of looked at each other and we both nodded and we left the beer joint. And that was the last time we ever tried to share the gospel in a beer joint. We had zeal, but we didn't have knowledge.